I didn't know at that time if I wanted to be pro surfer and go that route or if I wanted to go to college. But then when I hurt my knee, probably like 8 months before I would have graduated high school. So I kind of...
You made the decision easier?
Yeah, I made the decision based on my knee because I was worried that I would go into surfing and I would, first of all of my parents' resources that they worked so hard for would be gone because surfing's so expensive. And also I was just worried that every surfer's career seems about 5 to 10 years unless you're Kelly Slater. I thought that it didn't seem very sustainable. And I also thought there was this other part of my identity, like the learning aspect, that would get undeveloped. Mm-hmm. And so and then when I got in there, I was like, I feel like I won Willy Wonka's golden ticket a little bit, and it would be kind of rude if I didn't try. But I think I was 17 when I started at Stanford, and I was so nervous. It was so different from everything I knew. When you go there, it literally looks like you're going to like Hogwarts or something. Like if people are Harry Potter fans, like the campus is insanely beautiful. Everybody there seems really put together, and you hear all these things about, these are the smartest kids in the country or internationally. They all came from pretty prestigious prep schools. They are typically, Stanford students tend to be like a little bit more wealthy, come from wealthy backgrounds, or
the high maka.
A little bit. And so then here I was like on a whole girl, Kapala High School grad.
Sup guys, that's the tap.
Yeah, no. But I think my mom the first time my mom took me to that campus, she was like, okay, like let's get out of the car and go look around. And I was like, no, I don't want to get out of this car. I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to go here. It doesn't seem like my vibe. Like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to go here. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And that was also just because leading up to it, my high school counselors, when you get accepted to a school, you have to send them an official transcript. So I went to my high school counselors and I said, hey, I got into Stanford. Can you send them a copy of my official transcript? And they're like, you didn't get into Stanford. And I was like, what? And they were like, no one's ever got in there. You didn't get in there. So I said, I actually got in. Can you please send a transcript? And then they sat me down and they called my mom because they thought I was lying. And they thought I was like playing a trick. And if you know me, I'm like pretty genuine. So then I just had all these like weird things of that nature happen to me, where it made me feel already before I even got there like I didn't belong. So I was a little nervous. But then once I got there, they have a really, really strong Native community at Stanford. So it's kind of like whether you're Native Hawaiian or like say you're Dene, like you're from Arizona, or you're Lakota, or you're like they had Alaska natives there too. Like they had a lot of kids that were from really small rural Native communities that went there, and you kind of just like meet them and you hui up, and they're surprisingly more like you than you would think. Mm-hmm. Like I think indigenous cultures across the nation have really similar values, like Aina-based values. And so I really quickly was like, oh, I do have a spot here. Like I do belong here. But it actually wasn't that quick. It was like when I first got there, I thought I wanted to go for aerospace engineering. That was the other thing too, where I was like, yeah, like aerospace. Well, I really liked aerospace because I liked the movement of fluids. So like, and I think that's from the ocean.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like understanding how air, water, all these like viscous things, lava, how things move. And so I thought I was going to study aerospace engineering. And then I got my ass kicked, like pretty badly. I went from never having a B like in my life ever to failing, like literally failing a physics class.
So that's your story about your bad grade.
That was my... So then I was just like, and it was because I didn't know how to study. Like I didn't have any of the preparation to initially like figure out how to study at Stanford. I didn't have any guidance. I had nobody I knew that ever went there. I wasn't prepared for the rigor of the classes academically. And then as well, I was afraid to ask for help. And I was afraid to admit, like, I was like, oh, if I ask for help, people are going to know that I don't belong here.
Yeah, it's like showing weakness.
Yeah. So like that's how I felt initially. And then I realized that like that same physics class that I failed, like I think like 50% of the students fail that same physics class. So it's kind of like what they call like a weed out class. Like if you can't get past that bar, then kids will like switch their major out of engineering to something else because they just don't want to try and they don't want to deal with it. But I'm very stubborn and I'm very persistent. So, and I try again, even though I fail a lot of the times. And I was also like, a lot of the times when I feel that I can't overcome something, I think about my kupuna. And I think about if they were able to persist for thousands of years, make it through wars, famine, disease spread, like I can freaking do this, you know, like I can do this. And so basically what I had to do was like I had to work twice as hard in the beginning to make up for the education that I didn't have. So for about like the first year, I was just like constantly like 70 hours a week grinding, studying, and like going to extra help tutoring, going to office hours, working in peer groups. And so I developed this really good work ethic. So then by like the next 2 years, like by the next like 2.5 years, because I had established like that work ethic, when the material started to be new for people, like maybe you went to a really nice prep school and you learned computer science and you learned like advanced physics and math. When you're seeing it a second time, it's easy. But when you're seeing something for the first time, if you don't have that study ethic established, you're kind of like floundering. It's like, what do you do? So in the beginning, I'd say for the first year, I didn't do so well, but because I kept trying and I worked hard, then I started doing really well. Like
Definitely.
year 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
That's a testament to show that sometimes you got to figure out how to do it wrong before you can do it right.
Exactly.
You got to fail to succeed.
Exactly. And like, just because I want people to know that like, it certainly wasn't easy to do that. And it was, it's not impossible. If you feel like you're in some space in your life where you have this crazy task that you have to do and you don't know how you'll get there, it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you keep trying. And like, it's okay to ask for help, because I think for some reason, Western culture is really like, you got to do this by yourself. You got to climb that mountain by yourself, but you can't do things of value by yourself. You need to have your community, you know, your lahui. And when you help each other, that's how things get done quickly. And it's more rewarding when everybody has a piece of that.
100%.
Yeah, that struggle and that strength with them.
Yeah, I mean, just look back to the Ahupua'a system.
Yeah, exactly.
We all work together.
Yeah.
You know, the fishermen help the farmers help the fishermen.
Yeah.
Not everybody did everything on their own. You know,
Yeah.
The women helped the men helped the women. It was all a collective.
It also doesn't make sense to try to do everything on your own. Like, if you're like for our kupuna, like in one day you're gonna go farm your lo'i in the uplands. You're gonna go walk down and catch fish in the lowlands, like by the kai, and you're gonna like perpetually hustle to do that every day. You cannot, you know.
And that's where the modern burnout started.
Yeah.
People trying to do that.
Yeah. And like what I will say too, like I know I said like working hard is important, because it is, but you have to rest too. It's not healthy and it's not cool to be working like 70 hours a week for something that's like so unnatural. And I feel like the Western world also has this really bad value on working yourself to death, but it's just not sustainable. And kuleana is like a privilege and it's a responsibility, but it should be fun. That's the only way you're going to accomplish anything, is if you're passionate about it and it's fun.